TGIF, it's Friday, November 7th, 2025. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local Wyoming attorney on your side. Free consultations at WyomingAdvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. Well, now we await front number 2, the stronger and the colder of the systems, although yesterday's system did produce a little bit of weather in some areas. But tonight's front is the piece of the puzzle that leads to the big Arctic outbreak over the eastern side of the U.S. late this weekend and early next week. It's going to give us some more wind, more windy areas, some mountain snow showers. Going to have a little bit of rain and snow shower activity on the plains again. But the system is moving so fast, it's not going to be very productive with the precipitation. But it will bring kind of a blustery, chilly pattern our way today, tomorrow, and coolness will linger into Sunday. Along and east of the divide, temperatures will drop below seasonal averages for a couple of days before going right back up again as high pressure returns for probably all of the work week next week before we see the next change in the weather by next weekend. More beautiful cloud shots, but also folks were really interested and took a lot of photos of as that frontal boundary came through the region yesterday. It did produce not only pretty cloudscapes like this with layered clouds and beautiful sunrises and sunsets, but then we got into the showers, rain and snow showers with that trough as it swept on through the region. Here we have a shot in northwest Colorado. So as that system approached, first reaching areas west of the divide yesterday, like there in Craig and there in Cokeville. As these showers came over the divide, we had a lot of virga, but enough virga in the right sun angle for rainbows with virga. The showers, virga is when the rain or the snow evaporates before it reaches the ground, or maybe some reaches the ground, but not a lot of it. So you get these neat looking clouds with things dangling from the base of these clouds. You can get some really strong gusty winds, and these showers were quite prevalent along the trough boundary as it came through from Glen Rock there to north of Wheatland. Then we had all the way up to near Lodge Grass, Montana. Another rainbow with the same set of showers going over there to near Lusk. Then a great shot near Douglas of basically the same pattern. So you'll get that when you have deeper Pacific moisture above, but drier air closer to the ground. So that drier air closer to the ground causes evaporation, and the showers look menacing, but they don't produce much other than a sprinkle or a flurry and some very strong and gusty winds. And another shot there of the same thing near Casper. And then here's a short video of how long and wide the band of showers was as it came through. You can see there's not much vertical extent to the clouds. Puffy clouds showing that moisture, but they're not deep enough to really put it together. But really made for quite the scene as those showers move through. And we might see somewhat of a similar situation. Here's another amazing shot. Again, you can see a little bit of a rainbow down there at the base. With this next frontal system coming through in somewhat of a similar situation, we may see that again today. And there's those same showers over the Bighorns west of Sheridan. The satellite photos show the next little wave coming in right here very quickly. It's going to be moving south and east very rapidly this afternoon and into tonight, coming out of British Columbia in the Pacific Northwest. The blue right here is the first buildup of some very cold Canadian air coming in out of Manitoba, out of the Hudson Bay area and pushing westward. This little guy right here, it doesn't look like much, but it's going to be the guy that ends up buckling the jet stream pattern, as you'll see here in a moment, and as we've been showing you over the last couple of days. But look at all the fair weather out ahead of this trough as it comes in. But as it sweeps through, there it is. This will be where it is about noontime today. Heading southeast, it's going to hook up with this big cold storm up there in Hudson Bay, and the two will work together to amplify the flow, sending that cold air from the high latitudes to the low latitudes. But out west, as that system moves through, there will be some precipitation, nothing to write home about. That swath of moisture there in eastern Montana, North Dakota, into South Dakota, up into southern Canada, that's going to be snow. And then mountain snows are going to be found across the far northern Rockies and the far southern mountains of Wyoming and northern Colorado, but basically missing elsewhere. The wind, yes, the wind was a factor yesterday. The wind will be a factor today through tomorrow. Today and tomorrow, winds will be cold. They're going to be gusty as this system moves through. We do expect the winds to lay down and ease up considerably Sunday into Monday. But for the next 48 hours, you're going to have to deal with the wind. There's that amplified trough now reaching a far north-south extent before coming back up again. So this is by the middle part of Sunday. You can see that that little wave is gone because it's merged with this system. And you can see that the jet stream flow is amplifying. This ridge is building up. And when the ridge builds up, the initial response has got to be downstream, that for a trough comes in before it comes up again. So this is going to be quite an intense November cold shot for the eastern half of the country. Temperature anomalies by midday Sunday look like this. You can see the cold air that's pushed up against the front range from really the Big Bend area of Texas all the way up into southern areas of Saskatchewan and Alberta there. And then you'll see the cold air spilling into the Corn Belt and Midwest, then that deep plunge going all the way down into the Gulf Coast. This is where you might think it's a joke, but they'll be issuing falling iguana advisories for parts of Florida with that cold air, making those iguanas kind of get stunned and fall out of trees. It does happen. But you can see we've got a really big contrast. In the west, warmer than average, sharply colder than average across the eastern and southeastern United States. So you have quite the extreme of cold here and warmer than average conditions there. And just to have some fun with this, to show you the extent of how things are kind of out of whack here, here are the temperatures by Tuesday morning. You can see a lot of 30s in Florida, freezing temperatures in Georgia, Alabama, over there into Mississippi, all the way to the Atlantic coast, possibly freezing temperatures. So this is early morning Tuesday. So we have the potential Tuesday morning next week to be colder in that part of the country than over a lot of the Intermountain West. So temperatures are going to be 30s, 40s, even some lower 50s Tuesday morning, while Florida will be shivering. So why go to Florida in November when it could be warmer out here? Temperatures cold enough for snow to get very far south, even into Tennessee and along the higher elevations of the Carolinas. A lot of snow in eastern Canada. So that's where the action's going to be. That's the real first salvo of winter. But high pressure is going to be in the west. So we're going to put together another week in November of above average temperatures and mostly dry conditions for the most part. We have that low hanging off the west coast. This is by Wednesday. Now, after Wednesday, by Friday, the system begins to make its move. And this system does look like it is going to be a rain producer for California and a snow producer in the High Sierra. What happens after this system comes down and slides down the coast? The computer modeling is all over the place. But this system, some part of this system, either part of it or all of it, by late Saturday or Sunday of next weekend, should be around this part of the country here. But too much out there in terms of things that we're not sure about where it's going to go to really have any confidence, other than the next chance of precipitation and colder temperatures and more of a typical November pattern. That's not going to be until the weekend after this one for the western United States. All the winter weather will be on the other side of the U.S. But the Pacific coast is going to be getting stormy late next week and into the start of the weekend. Have yourself a good weekend. We'll see you Monday.